Yo, what's up guys? Different kind of video, and that is general guide of what to use, how to use, where to use, what do you have to look at when creating your arena offenses. And of course, I definitely do know that people would say like, oh, just use these 4 units and cleave everything and done. But it's not as static as that. It kind of depends on what units you have, what kind of runes you have, what kind of playstyle you like to play in arena offense. But definitely arena offense is going to be a lot more interesting, mainly because we're going to get LD scrolls or LD pieces from getting arena in. I would also definitely say that arena defense is very overrated and arena offense is very underrated. And I hear a lot of people say like, oh yeah, I could be G3 or this or that rank if I had a better defense, if I had that Tian or name whatever good defense unit out there. Sure, maybe, but I think a lot of people really undervalue of how much improvement you can make in arena offense of maybe re-runing just before the rush and then setting it back, or just having like a few things runed up that can actually clear multiple things. Because if you just go into your arena rush with 1 or 2 offenses, you're probably gonna meet this point where it's like, okay, I can't hit this, can't hit this, can't hit this. Oh, I'm hitting something that's maybe kind of iffy. And the main thing about arena offense is anytime you lose an arena offense, you go down 2 steps. And the reason you don't go down 1 step is because let's say you're at 1,000 points. If you win, you are at 1,010, but if you lose, you're at 990. So the gap between like 1,010 and 990 is 20 points. So you go down 2 steps for every lose that you make. So winning is very important, and therefore crafting a proper arena offense is very important. Then you might be like, say, what the hell am I looking at kind of like childish color book thing right now with all of this stuff on the background? Hear me out on this one. So I didn't place all of the AO units in the game that are currently meta, but I placed most of the units that I would say like, okay, are unique enough to do something. Probably missing a few here and there, might add some of them later. But I wanted to showcase a lot of creative offenses that I've seen or shown throughout the years, because I've been getting G3 since I think 2016, 2017. So it's been quite a while. I've seen a lot of different stuff. But it all comes down to a few things, and then you can say like, okay, which unit fit these roles to get all of those things in, or maybe have some units to fit multiple roles, and therefore I can add more damage dealers, or something like that. But just to get you like into the mindset of like, okay, what is it to create certain offenses? First thing we need is we need to outspeed. Outspeed or outslow. Outslow, most people would think of a Leo, but a controlled outslow could also be something like a Chloe. Chloe moves in front of the whole team. If the enemy doesn't have any strippers, you can actually move that way. Then, of course, we have the setup with attack buff. Attack buff is needed 9 out of 10 of the times. There's a few units, like for example, a Sarath that doesn't need an attack buff in there. And then you have like the debuffs and or we have the defense breaks. But we also have the strips. Strips should actually be moved in front of this. How we're going to do that? Let's just take that over here. And then over there. It's not necessarily in order. Like, it's kind of in order, but not really in order. Then we also have damage. We have fail saves. Fail saves are actually the units over there. And then sustained bruiser fights, which are the units over there. So you probably did already notice I put most of the damage dealers here on the top left. I put the units that are strippers over here. I put the units that are the speed leads over here. And I put the units that are boosters over here, or attack buffers or anything like that. Well, actually, you are a speed lead, so you're better fitting over there. Let me just remove you from there. It is kind of like a thing like, okay, a lot of these units do overlapping things. And that is what makes these units a lot interesting as well. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of examples. I also have like on the bottom right, you can't really see it, also a whole bunch of defense units. With those defense units, you can get some other ideas and things in as well. So those defense we can actually use to add in some extra units. I just added in retouch just for another unit. So yeah, this is a lot to it, and I hope I can kind of break it down without making too much of a mess out of like my mind and your minds. But let's see what we can do about all of this, and let's see what kind of offense and defense we can craft with this, because there's just a whole bunch of options. So in most cases, everything that you're looking for, you want to outspeed. Like 9 out of 10, you're outspeeding, except when you're Leoing, you're outspeeding. So let's first look at outspeeding. What do we need for outspeeding? We need something with a speed buff, and we need something that is Yeah, just something that is just boosting, not necessarily speed buff, but something that's boosting. So in very common case, I like Eshir as one of the better boosters out there. Of course, you have Bastet. With Bastet, you also have, of course, the attack buff in there right away. But in general case, if you place an Eshir together with a Galleon, you're already fitting a whole bunch of things together, because you also have a speed buff from the Eshir. You have an attack buff from this unit. So with that, you already have like a whole bunch of things. Plus you have the arm break. Sure, Galleon can miss, but in most cases you have that good. If you want to add a stripper, you could look at a stripper that also already has a speed lead, because these two units do not have a speed lead. If you add in a speed lead right now, it means that your damage dealer doesn't have to be a speed lead. You could say, for example, like, okay, I'll just put the speed lead from this. So I'm going to put this unit in, has a speed lead, is a damage dealer. And with that, you could say like, okay, I can bring in any stripper right now. But in this case, any of the strippers do not really make too much sense for this team, because you have a lot of overlapping things. For example, we have Tiana, but Tiana would remove the speed buff. Doesn't make too much sense. You could put in Triton, but Eshir is already fast. Triton is supposed to be fast, because those are high base speed units. Doesn't really make too much sense. You could put Eludia, it armor breaks, but Galleon already armor breaks. So this unit actually doesn't make too much sense in this team. And that is why you would go for, in this case, is one of the most common options out there, is a Chiwu. So you go for the Chiwu lead. That way, you also have the usefulness of the speed buff of Eshir, because Chiwu skill 3 actually scales with speed as well. And then you can add like a high accuracy, high crit rate. Well, that's also main thing for like people might ask for bolts and stuff. It's very simple. All of these units you want to have, if they crit, 100 crit rate, rest, damage, and in tune. Simple as that. Any of those units that are stripping, most likely either in tune, if they're the first unit on the field, as fast as possible. That's just simply it. Speed leads kind of depends where you use them. Some have to be fast, some have to be in tune, some do some damage. It kind of depends on the unit. If they do damage, crit rate. If they have to land anything, high accuracy. For all of the strippers, 100 or like 85 accuracy is absolutely a must, except for Tiana, because she doesn't care about that stuff. For the boosters, all as fast as possible, except for the attack bar boosters, they have to be in tune. So you have a lot of options with that out there. So back to the current team. We have this. After this, we can add a lot of damage dealers. There's a few options for damage dealers that shine out more than others, which are the damage dealers that do damage based on speed, because you already have the Eshir. So Eshir would, for example, be best paired with a Leia. If you don't happen to have a Leia, then a good pair would be a Poseidon. So if we add in those two units, and then you might ask like, okay, what would you hit with this? Well, you see a very typical offense that could be something along the lines of a Vanessa and then a Camilla. And let's see how far I'm getting out before getting out of the screen. Let's just put them over here. And then let's say a thing that we can actually clear with this. Let's say they add in a Nora. Something you might see, something you might not see. You see a lot of the double Camillas out there right now. Something like this is definitely something that you would be able to hit with this, because you can just do enough damage. You push the units back. The nice thing about Galleon is that Galleon doesn't hit the units actually, so there's no chance of these things getting their armor break off but just being crit on already. And then you could just tumble in a lot of damage. You're definitely going to be faster than all of these units. So you're definitely fine on this. However, what if the issue is that there is, for example, this, we remove this, and we place an Amduat in here? Is this an issue, however? To a certain extent, yes, but to also a lot of extent, not really. The only thing that you would need to have is your Poseidon and your Leia on will. Because these units, in difference to, for example, the Triana removes the will runes that are on your team. This team in this case does not have that. So with that reason, you can actually place that in and it just works perfectly fine. And you can just do a lot of damage. But let's look at a different defense. So let's say there is a Tian Lang in here. So if we look at, for example, this, we place a Tian Lang in here. And then we have a Nora in here, which is definitely a better defense. Would you say like, okay, current team cannot be used? Well, technically not really, but also technically kind of. The only thing is that Eshir doesn't really fit this slot in this case. You could say that Chiwu is still definitely fine because Chiwu pushes back, Chiwu doesn't absorb, so that still can be used. The only thing is, you would have to look at a spot that makes it that all of these units start lapping without actually giving a speed boost. Would you say that your Leia and your, while these 3 units are fast enough, Poseidon might be a little bit slower? An option could be to say like, okay, I'm gonna put in the pure vanilla cookie, make it very fast. It's definitely going to outspeed all of those units. These units will take multiple times on a speed buff. Therefore, I don't need the Galleon, but I could use something else that could be actually a pushback rather than, or like a different stripper. So in this case, I didn't actually add that pushback unit. A lure is definitely an option. But let's say you want to bring in a different armor breaker. This is definitely an option as well. So you just have to make all of your team faster because you're not working off a speed boost, but just a speed buff. You could even use these units for artifacts for speed increasing effect. But this is definitely an option where you could say like, okay, I'm using different style of units to get different things together. And with that way, it works. If you want to go more free-to-play style, you can add in Jasmine. Jasmine is a very good unit. It was one of the last HSHs that we had like close to making this video. And Jasmine actually has the armor break plus a cooltime increase. Cooltime increase would mean that you increase the cooltime on the Vanessa. Would you not be able to kill the Vanessa, but would you be able to kill the Tian Lang or the Nora? They actually do die. So those are things that you could look at like, okay, there is a Tian Lang in there. I can switch my team for just a little bit, and with that little bit, it's already enough. So in that case, let's say you have this team, but you also still have that other team ruined. It's kind of possible, because you can throw your fastest runes at the Eshir. And if you go for the Eshir, you go with Galleon. But if you don't go with Galleon, then you go for the option for these 2 units. So you're still using the same damage dealer, but you have slightly different styles of your offense. And the more different styles you have of your offense, but still using the same units or a few of the same units, it means that your rune quality is going to be better on those because you don't have to split the rune quality to multiple teams. But it also does mean that you're able to hit multiple defenses rather than just 1 or 2. So if we look at that, let's look at an option that's like the most free-to-play thing out there. So that's actually something that I've been using on my alt as of lately. So let's remove those. And let's keep in the Eshir and let's keep in this thing. So what are the most free-to-play options out there for stripping, attack buffing, and then also doing damage while also having a speed lead? So that's asking quite a lot for free-to-play right now, but it's actually not that difficult. Option would be Aquila, because Aquila has the same things as Joe Gun, actually. Wait, did I place Aquila in here and Joe Gun in there? Well, kind of there. They're actually the same thing. Well, that's also with these units, there are a lot of overlapping, right? So Aquila has the attack buff, also has crit rate buff, if I'm not mistaken. Don't at me if I'm wrong on that one, but I think it has both. And then also goes for a strip. So with that strip, it gets an additional turn, and then you can go for the other skill. You need to have will on that unit. That's pretty important though. But yeah, there's some options to it. Then we have to look at like, okay, we're doing damage, but we also have to make sure we're still outspeeding. But that's also the thing where you can have like different variations of like different teams. Let's say that we're fighting a team that's a little bit slower. So we're talking free to play. So ranks are probably like a little bit lower. People have like not the craziest of offenses. Let's see that we go something along this line. We add in, let's say, an Abellio, and we add in like a Triana, could be annoying. And then we add in something like a... I don't have too many units set up in here. Let's say we still go for Camilla, just because he's actually annoying. So this is already a pretty good defense. Like in lower ranks, you're gonna not too much see this kind of defense. But this is not that hard. Let's say that in this case, if we want to go full free to play, we would have to look for a damage dealer here that would do a lot of damage to all of these units. An option that could be, since we're also using the speed buff, could be once again Shimite. Shimite is a very strong offense unit that just does a lot of damage. And since we have this unit in here, we might deny the passive of the Triana and might deny the passive of this thing. We might have some issues killing the Carnal though, so you would have to have some damage on the Eshir, but also on the Jasmine. Jasmine S2 actually does do a lot of damage because you do damage on enemy max HP and how much attack bar they have or some nonsense. Thing actually does do quite a lot. Another unit is, if you want to go for heavier damage, you could go for this. It's mainly based on having multiple debuffs, so then it might become interesting to put the Jasmine on Despair, so you have a little bit of that going in there. It's just like a few options out there. But in this case, we're still looking at like speed leads. We're kind of forcing in speed leads. Do we actually have to force in speed leads? Because we could also say this, Aquila is actually a lead of 25 attack. And then we go in for a Kaki. And then there's maybe a little bit too heavy on the water for our liking. So if this unit was maybe something else that was not a water unit, or any of those two, like if there's just one, it's kind of fine. If there's two, it gets kind of tricky. But that is definitely an option. Or if you would say like, okay, I maybe have like a Zyros, you just add a Zyros in there. So with that, you have a lot of options of saying like, okay, there are definitely a lot of options if you play around and look at free-to-play options as well. There's definitely a lot of options for saying like, okay, what can you do? What can you hit? How can you hit it? Where can you hit it with? Pong Beak could be an option as well. Like let's say you happen to have a Pong Beak and you shoot your Triana and then it starts hitting on all of the others. So there's definitely options, and I would definitely always recommend to have one team that's strong against HP type of defenses, one team that's very strong against the speed lead kind of defenses, and then maybe one that's more of like a bruiser style. Let's say if you can't outspeed them, but they don't have any form of sustain in their team. And there's actually quite a lot of teams like that. Let's look at one of those. So if we remove those, we do see a lot of teams where we could say like, okay, we have a Vanessa in there and someone goes for like an Amduat. Or let's go slightly, is that fine? Yeah, let's go for Amduat, and he adds in like a Triton and for some reason, and then he adds in a Cardinal. It is an option. So is it really great? Not really. This is hard to outspeed. You could bring a lot of things, or you could look at a lot of things saying like, okay, how am I going to outspeed it? I would probably need like a 33 lead. Then I would need like really good runes on the Kabila. So let's say we're going down that line. So we go this line, that line, and then we add in this, and then we're going for a Lucian setup. Let's say like that. So this is our offense. Can this actually win this? No, most likely not. I don't expect your Lucian not to get cut by the Amduat. I don't expect your Lucian not to get like super hard screwed, even if you go for this. Let's say we remove that and we put a Dove in here and make the Lucian 0 speed. Are you going to clear all of this? Most likely not. Would you do this with the Julie? I didn't add in Julie. That's definitely an option as well, that you could maybe do a little bit more damage on this, but would you clear it? Most likely still not. So what you could do and have that in your back pocket is saying like, okay, I'm not going to go for speed contesting those teams, but those teams are actually super easy to outslow. And then what kind of way of outslowing would we do? Most of the time it is Leo based. You could say you go for mid-tier speed kind of units that could maybe counter a lot. Actually, units I didn't add, but after I showcased this team with the Leo, I will showcase a team that can actually just auto this as well. Even though you don't really have, you need some net 5 units on that, but for Leo team as well. So let's say we add in a Leo, we add in that Feng Yang, and we add in a Alaya. Doesn't really matter what we put on the final slot. Could be a Veramos, could be a Tetra, could be a Windy, could be a Seimei, could be a lot of units. This will most likely just auto this in about a minute. Probably even less. So those kind of hits are definitely really fast. Another hit that is more controlled, but one that's pretty strong as well, is if you were to go this, and then, for example, a Farad, and think that this is an NFL. I didn't place in the NFL, but an NFL. So you have armor break, you have damage on defense, this thing providing defense buff, armor break from this thing, it's an NFL, it's not a Nicky. So, and then you have a lot of protection from healing over here, NFL is healing, and that will clear this kind of team very, very easily. So let me add a few units that might clear this super easily, even without being a Leo team. Okay, few units added, done. This thing will auto this whole team. There's nothing in this team that can actually properly kill a Douglas. Add a Molly to it, add like a few other units to it, like other passive units could be whatever, like Windy would kind of target it, so I wouldn't really go for a Windy too much, like I wouldn't go Wind units, but this plus like a Lulu and a Molly and something else will literally auto this team. And there's actually, in high ranks, there's a lot of these kind of teams out there. You can literally auto them. It's just because the team is set up that badly. It's just simple to auto them and have some of those kind of offenses in your back pocket to see like, oh, I see this offense, but that's literally like the freest win that I have. It's like 1,000% guaranteed a victory. And that is just very chill to go for those kind of victories out there, because it just makes things so much safer than going for all kinds of like risky plays, like, oh, can I Lucian this, can I not Lucian this, is my Galleon going to land, is my Galleon not going to land. There's a lot of those units out there that the moment that you miss your skill and you're going to, yeah, you're just gonna have a bad time. I would say that Giselle is definitely one of those options. If your Galleon misses on Giselle, your match is over, because Giselle will always go S2, S3, you have invisibility up, you have AoE armor break, you're dead. Same thing with the Pontus. Pontus most likely, it resists something, and then it goes for the skill 3, that's just too much invisibility, you're gonna lose. So what can you do against those kind of teams to kind of have like a fail safe in? So let's say someone is running this with a Clara and then a double Camilla. So let's say we go the double Camilla style. And we want to kill this. So double Camilla, how do you actually kill double Camilla? There's a few options. I would say that Kaki is a decent damage dealer to it that doesn't crit on them. So that is definitely an option out there. You could say Ongyuki is a better version of that. We could go back to the Chiwu Galleon Eshir with a Leia team. It would definitely kill it. But the moment that your Chiwu doesn't strip the Giselle, you're dead. The moment that your Galleon doesn't armor break the Giselle, you're dead. So those things are a lot less chill. But what is a safer way of clearing that? Well, that's actually Bomber Team. Bomber Team, but if you miss the bombs, let's say we go for this. I do say that John is a better bomber than Libli. I did the video on that before. I would definitely say so, because you have the increased cooltime. That already helps a lot for fail-saving. But you're not really there. Let's say we go for this and then we add in like a Jogun and we went in with like this. Moment we miss strips, we dead. Moment we miss bombs, we dead. So what can we do to make it a little bit safer? Well, we're still bound to stripping, because we could say like, okay, what if we remove this and we go for this in here? That already removes that. That's definitely an option. But then let's say we go for this and we go for a attack bar booster in here. Makes it safer, right? Well, to a certain extent, but the issue is your Tiana has to outspeed Clara. Claras are mostly on defense on very high speed. So on that high speed Clara, you might actually lose that speed check, because you're not guaranteed to outspeed. Sure, you have 5 higher in the lead, but she has about like 5 higher in the base, or even more than that. So for that reason, are you actually going to outspeed? It's more of a speed check. It's more of a rune check. So it will be safer afterwards, but you're still bound to like, am I going to land the bombs? However, this thing has the cooltime increase. So that is already like miles better than a Libli, because Libli, if you miss the bombs on Giselle, you're dead. This thing, if you miss the bombs, at least you can still do something. But how can we make this even safer? So let's look at an option that's a lot safer than that. If we add in this unit does strip. It boosts up the unit that moves next. And then afterward, it gives attack buff. So if we want, of course, the attack buff to be on the John. And then we want to move something else in front of it. Plus, this unit is a high base speed unit. So this is 100% going to outspeed this, unless you really suck on your speed runes and they have really crazy runes. But to make it safe, we can add in Ganymede. So this thing moves. It's definitely going to outspeed. We're going to boost up Ganymede. So Ganymede is going to be as fast as this unit pretty much. I can reset the Giselle. And then I can, like the whole team is reset, then I can go for the bombs and then I can let it explode. If I miss the bombs, it's still kind of fine. If I miss the strips, it could maybe be an issue. But I think that there's a lot more safety to this kind of team rather than the other previous teams where like, okay, if I miss a bomb, I can't really do too much. Giselle is still a tricky thing though. Like if I miss the strip on Giselle, match definitely still might be looking at a tricky situation. But at least you have some more options with like resetting skills. You have some options with like if the strip missed, you can give the strip back to the unit, for example, and ventilate. So there's a few more options to make things safer. And that is also something that you might think of, for example, Galleon. Galleon is a armor breaker plus buffer, which is pretty strong. However, he only has one activation on the skill 3 to actually land that defense break. And we all have that moment where we say like, okay, Galleon, you fucking suck. You don't land any defense breaks. But there's actually a few units out there. The best is Asima. Didn't place it here. Asima's multiple attempts of landing the defense break. But second best thing is actually this thing, which is the Dark Madeline Cookie. And it has a double activation rate of 100% to get in the defense break. However, this thing doesn't provide anything else than just defense break. So why is that good, or where can you still use that? Well, the thing is, if there is, for example, a speed lead as in a, or there's no speed lead, there's an HP lead, you have more possibilities to actually go for units such as this. And that's why in general, speed leads on defense, and the defense video is going to be tomorrow. But the speed lead in most cases is a lot better than the HP lead, because the HP lead gives me a lot more options to create safe offenses if I have them ruined at that time. So let's say we go for this. Let's say we add in a this kind of thing, and then we can add in freely just anything like this, and then we go for a damage like this. So that's definitely options out there where you could say like, okay, we have quite some options with attack buffing, boosting, and then just getting all of that stuff in. Let's say that he's really slow, and we could even go like a different route. We don't need this. We could simply go for this, and then we have like a we just need a strip. Could literally be any strip, could be anything. So for that reason, we go for this. Let's say that. We could even go one step further, saying like, okay, we place in once again that Aquila. We don't even need this thing, and we just need some speed in it. So there's a lot of options to it where you could say like, okay, we're gonna add in this, and then we're gonna add in the, for example, because we have the speed buff again, we add in this. So there's a lot of options to it where you could say like, okay, this is how I craft my offenses based on just the units that you have, like the usability that you have. And there's just simply a lot of stuff to it, what you can play around with. So it's not really straightforward, like, oh, I always have to go Tiana, Zyros, and then clear the whole thing. No, you can get a little bit more creative than that. So as of recently, I've been using offenses that are more single target killing style. So what is single target killing style? Well, the one that I used was a Jemire, a Sonya, and then a Beth, in case you don't have two Sonyas, and then you want to add in the pure vanilla cookie. So with this, I can kind of guarantee to outspeed things, because this unit is pretty fast. I give speed boost to both units that are also fast. The ticks are 7% per iteration, so for that reason, it is very likely to even still outspeed things. Let's say that they go for Clara, 19 lead, Clara together with, let's say something dumb now. Let's actually say something that does make sense. Let's go for this. Vanessa in there, we go for Tian Lang, and then he has like the whole shebang of annoying shit. We go for Abellio in there, and we go for a Giselle in there. Like this guy has like a really crazy, nasty defense, right? So with this team, what I can do is I can speed boost. I let the Bethany move to kill this thing. Abellio will get his passive in, but I don't really care too much about it. And then it's not gonna heal, it's not gonna boost enough. And because also the Tian Lang boosting is becoming worse. Then the Sonya can kill the Giselle. And then I can reset the whole thing to kill the other two units. Pretty simple, right? So there's definitely options to it where you can also maybe use like single target killing. I would say Sonya is probably, Sonya in combination with pure vanilla cookie, it's probably one of the better combinations for that out there. But you could also look at, for example, I have the Dark Cassandra in here, very premium, but you could look at a Kali thing. So can you do something with a Kali? Let's say that you're a little bit slower. So I don't have Kali right now, don't really want to search for it. Like the list of all of the units I've been searching through is taking me way too much time. But let's say that this is a Kali. And let's say that, yeah, we have the Kali, and then you put Kali super fast, and then you have units afterwards moving like that. Because this team in the end, a Tian Lang team is not super fast. It's never going to be super fast. So you can definitely hit something like that with this. Another option to hit a Tian Lang team, I would say it's slightly more on the tricky side, but it is definitely an option. Did I add in the gen units? No, I didn't add in Chung Pang. So you could say, okay, let's say that we have a Ongyuki, because Ongyuki is pretty fast on the base speed. Probably not really gonna recommend it using it like that, but it is fine. Let's say that we have this, and then we add in a Samath, and then we add in a Galleon. Let's say my Tiana is 310 speed, but my next two units are also 305 speed or something, or even 308. Like they're pretty much like moving right after, and I don't really need the boost of Tiana. You can still hit Tian Langs. However, Tian Langs could be on Swift, and then they still cut you, but most of the time people don't really throw those kind of things at you. So that's definitely one of those units that you could say like, okay, those have the possibilities to do some creative stuff. Other things, well, I've been showcasing a lot of Nefty's offense. With Nefty's, you already have like the speed lead plus together a armor break that's guaranteed. And then you have a lot of options out there. So for example, this, the only thing is after this, you just need an attack buffer. So you could put any damage dealer over here. I mostly use, in my case, the Grogan. But then what is the best damage or the best booster in here? And that's actually a unit I haven't been selecting here yet. But that's definitely a unit that deserves some credit, and which is Hongyong. And Hongyong has the possibility of providing attack bar buff, attack bar buff, attack buff. But the attack buff is only applied the moment that the unit gets a turn. So if this unit moves, then the Tiana moves, then I will apply attack buff to the Tiana, but these two units don't have attack buff yet until they actually take a turn. So Nefty's moves, she gets the attack buff even though the Tiana just removed all of the stuff earlier. So okay, this is a very premium team. How can you bring this to a team that's less premium? So we could simply say like, okay, we're adding back that truffle and we're dealing damage with the Zyros. So sure, we can't really outspeed this kind of stuff over here. But would you say that you can outspeed something in the case that he goes for more tanky units? Yeah, absolutely. So definitely one of those units that you could say like, okay, my Tiana is super fast. I use my Tiana in like a few different styles, but I have her super fast and I can't really have like a Bastet that's also on like the super fast pace. So because in this case, you kind of have to have like a Tiana and then a Bastet and then you go for these other units. It is possible. But this gives you a bunch of other options as well, which is kind of similar. Plus, maybe you don't even have the Bastet. So those are definitely options that you could look at for saying like, okay, maybe with this, I can still hit the things that I would like to hit. Also, an interesting thing about this is, let's say we're hitting a Kinky. If you tune it right, Tiana will also get an attack buff during the time she moves the second time. Her S2 does damage on the enemy max HP, no, the enemy speed, and it always crits if there's no debuffs. So there's a good chance to attack buff and then hit this thing pretty hard as well. So those are definitely options out there. So one thing that we didn't really mention yet is, let's say that we kind of control out slow, but still kind of make our units move. So how does that kind of look like? So for example, someone is using a Triton. What can you do to a Triton to always have your team move? Well, the funny thing is, if you put a Moor on Will, your Moor will always move after Triton. Like 100% guaranteed, your Moor will move after Triton. And that is just the simple fact that if he uses S1, Moor moves. If he uses S2, Moor moves. If he uses S3, he strips more, but Moor still moves. And S2, because you have Will, still makes Moor move. And you cannot place the silent. So Moor is actually super hard counter to Triton. But then you have to say like, okay, my other units might be pushed back. I have to kind of overcome that. You could place in a Leo plus a booster. That is an option. Also, the Moor has slightly bit of a pushback. So with that pushback, it might be good enough as well. Or you have to get all of your other units fast enough to work from that. Or what you can do, and I don't have that unit placed in right now. And let's see if I can find it pretty quickly. Probably not. Velajul. Velajul's fire is most likely not being pushed back because of glancing. It is still possible though. But Velajul can provide immunity that's just stripped and then boost up your team again. So after that you can have like, let's say a Galleon move and then a damage dealer. Because you strip their whole team. And then you would need some damage dealer that I would say is somewhat more on the like tanky side, but still can do quite some damage. Kind of depends what you want to place, but let's say we go for a Kaki. So let's say that this guy is running the team as a Vanessa, Triton, and then a... what would make sense? Let's say we go for a Kinky, and then we say we go for a... Amduin might be a little bit annoying. Let's say you go for an Abelio. So let's say he goes this team. So it's not really a great team, I can tell you that much, because there's no setup for the damage for him, but he can maybe do the solo damage. Maybe that's the case for the enemy. So Triton moves, then more moves. We can push back those units. Valaju is most likely not pushed back, but even if he is pushed back, we can still boost up higher than this. Then Valaju moves, these two units move. Thing is, what you have as an issue right here is that it's way more likely for your Galleon to be pushed back than your Kaki. So in this case, Kaki is maybe a bad example. So I would say like, anything that is pretty much not a fire damage dealer would be a better example in this. Let's say we go for Poseidon or something. I would still recommend something that's a little bit more on the tanky side. Can't really think of something right now. Yeah, the Young Ryukyu or like Grogan or something. Those are kind of the options you have out there for that. Then talking about Leo offenses. Leo offense, most common one that a lot of people like to use is this, and then you go for a bunch of Lucians. Something like this. Is this really great at the moment? Well, actually it's not, because you can already see this does not counter that. Because Leo moves, and then only if the Triton is non-willed, you can actually have your Bastet moving it. Afterwards, otherwise your Bastet is not moving in a million years. Even if your Bastet moves, you probably trigger the Abellio. Not great. You probably cannot kill the Vanessa, and you can probably not kill the Kinky. So this team is actually pretty bad against this. So what can you do to make this work? Well, to be honest, these kind of teams, I wouldn't really Leo. And the main reason for that is, like, sure, if your team is tanky enough and you decide, like, oh, I kind of check it if the Leo or if the Triton is willed or not, you can maybe get away with it. But the big issue is it doesn't really work that well. A thing which you can kind of do to make your unit move, and then you would need a Megan rather than a Bastet, but make it very squishy and hope that the Triton, or actually a Konomiya is more common. You bring in a Konomiya instead of the Bastet, you make it super squishy, and you hope that the Triton triggers Nemesis enough that you can always boost up your Lucian. It's kind of an option. And then at the next slot, you kind of want to use something like a Carlos is pretty common or so. So those are definitely options out there. However, is that great of an option? I wouldn't really say so. To be honest, Leoing anything like this, I wouldn't really recommend too much to it. So are there options for it? Wait, let me think for a second. Well, actually, now I'm thinking of it, not really something that's super safe where you can say like, okay, they take first turn and then I'll go for it and then I'm kind of fine. However, there are a few options. And that's once again a unit I didn't place in, and that's more of a fail-safe than anything. So I would have to place it at the fail-safe units. And that is a Delphoid. So let's say we go for those two. Delphoid and Leo. So Delphoid 100 resistance. In case that the Delphoid is not pushed back, you would like to trigger some Nemesis on this unit, or you put some shield to it. This thing can either put the Oblivion if that is needed, or otherwise just heal a little bit and place immunity. Next to that, we want to have our setup for attack buff and defense break. And then we want a nuke to kill the whole thing. Funny enough, Dorothy is best in slot in this. Like, Dorothy is often memed at as like the absolute worst unit in the game. But for this team specifically, Dorothy is best in slot and would absolutely do the highest damage out there. You could go for a Hanwoo in this slot. Hanwoo is also definitely a nice case for this thing. I don't have Hanwoo selected in here, and I'm kind of done with searching for units. But a thing that I actually do have in here is a Christina. Christina is definitely a good option for this as well. So with Christina, you also have the option to go for this and then just do a lot of damage. You just have to make sure that your Christina doesn't die. And this thing will focus your Christina. If there is the right tuning of armor break into damage, then your Christina might have a bad day. But in most cases, it's not really the case. Just make sure that's a little bit tanky, and you're probably good to go as well. So those are definitely options out there that you can do with Leo. However, there's also other options you can do with Leo. For that, I actually forgot to place in this one, which is a speed lead armor break. Actually, a very OP unit. Like, why is this not used more? Because it is speed lead, armor break, strip. What more do you want? Like, that's pretty much saying like, okay, I do 3 of those things. All we need is an attack buff. And let me double check. They did buff him to the sense where he is now always armor breaking, or the condition is made easier. Wait, let me double check. There's no condition to it. It just removes 1. So it cannot remove multiple, but it can remove 1. So for that reason, you can do even this. Make it super fast. You have the speed lead of this. And then, well, in this case, I kind of only have 2 options because you don't have an attack buffer right now. If you were to place Bastet in here, you would have like some more options of saying like, okay, I can go for pretty much any damage dealer here and it's kind of fine. However, if you go for Kabila, you go for the highest speed out there, then you would need a damage dealer that also does the setup himself. So a Talisman, incredibly good for that. Another option is this team with a Zerath. If I happen to have a Zerath, I would absolutely use something like this because this is a lot and a lot of freaking damage that you can deal that way. So those are definitely options out there that you could look at like, okay. And the best thing about that is that in the case, let's say that we're using this with a different one and then something else in the middle or so, then we need to put a lot of speed to Zerath to be in tune. However, if we put Leo, these two, and then this over here, we can make Zerath pretty much at 0 speed, and we can do a lot of damage. So for that reason, it's also like people have been asking, for example, what if you get a Hanwoo? How would you use Hanwoo? Let me actually place in Hanwoo. So let's say we have a Hanwoo in there. Hanwoo, in this case, I would definitely use with a Leo. So what kind of Leo style would you use it for? Well, I would probably use it like this with the Galleon and then make Hanwoo a little bit tanky. I think that's the most sophisticated way for me to use a Hanwoo. But you could also use it more slightly offensive of saying like, okay, because this team is very good against this kind of stuff. However, if someone wants to use a team that is a this and then goes for like, let's say a Clara lead and then goes for Camilla in there. So definitely an annoying team. Let's say Clara lead. If I use this, I probably get stunned. This thing gets stunned. It's going to be all bad. Like it's going to definitely be bad news. However, if I were to use, once again, that Gemini in here, and then I go for Gemini plus this, I would have to make a decently fast Bastet to overcome this, but at least it gives you options of saying like, okay, you can maybe do something with this and then still have that outspeeding potential in there while your Hanwoo is like literally 0 speed. You could also do it one other way around, which is saying like, okay, I keep these units in the same. Let's say that this is still my stripper and that is still my booster. Well, we're going to use a different booster. Let's say we add in the Kabila, which is going to be faster. And then we're going to add in a Dova. So in this case, we have the full speed of those two units. We have a Dova to fully oppose this. Could be a Dova, could be a Tian, could be a Konomiya. That doesn't really matter too much. But we only have to have the speed tuning of these three in line. And therefore, this will for sure outspeed that. And we can still use a Hanwoo that's at 0 speed. So there's definitely a whole bunch of options that you could think of. Like, okay, maybe you have like some other LD units that could work kind of like that. Another unit that I used to use in the showcase of this, I actually got Legend with it using this. I don't think it's as great currently against the Camilla meta because Camillas will start focusing this thing in this team specifically. So it's maybe a little bit worse. But this was definitely I didn't have Christina at that time. I think Christina might be a better in slot. But this is definitely a very strong offense as well. So yeah, there's definitely a whole bunch of strong offense out there. I think I addressed most of the units. Also, in a lot of cases, like this one has a little bit too much healing. But if we go back to the previous team, let's see, previous team, you could definitely still say, like, we're going for this with the Feng Yang and the Alaya. And then you just add in whatever. Because most likely these units are not going to kill these units. Like, it's very unlikely. And you can just even add in like a second Feng Yang to make this faster. Like, or whatever unit. You kind of want to aim for the units with defense scaling or adding like some possibility of maybe like a dark unit to tank this because that's the only damage dealer. There's definitely a whole bunch of options out there. We spoke about a lot of offense right now, but one of the offense that I still missed out on is Amber. And Amber is a very strong unit in offense if you have a Nefties, is what a lot of people say. Is that really true? Because if you go this plus this, it's deadly as hell. Especially against the Camillas, you want to have them on low crit rate. This to outspeed things, what I tend to do is this plus this. This is my way to outspeed shit. Would I outspeed a Triton? If I'm very confident in my Kabila speed, then yes, I could outspeed Tritons with it. You would have the issue that you're fighting this Abelios. Is this really the best team that I would use against this? Maybe not, but it's still definitely something that could work. However, this is pretty premium. Not everyone has a Nefty. So let's remove the Nefties. What can we do to make Amber work? Well, it's actually pretty simple. All you need to do is a high speed lead. And you kind of want to use a Triton. And with the Triton, we give the possibility of using a Rika. The thing is, if you have a super fast Triton on defense, might as well use your super fast Triton on offense. And then an offense like this is definitely something useful. Whether it's an Oliver lead or a Samath lead or whatever lead, that doesn't really matter too much. I would recommend to get all of these units to low crit rate so you can definitely land on the Camillas. But Rika is a very good solution to land a lot of debuffs. And then the heal block of Amber, because she always lands heal block right now, which is the thing that is also buffed after her nerf, definitely does make her strong again. So especially against Camilla meta, this might definitely be an offense that you might be looking at saying like, okay, can we actually do something with that? Another thing, did I speak about most of the other units? Yeah, I would say so. One unit that I didn't really address, which is also pretty nice, is, well, let's say a Tablo offense. Tablo offense you don't see as much anymore, but it's mainly like a Jemaya Tablo offense. And then you want to aim something for like single targets damage dealers with like a booster, and the other booster would in this case. I don't have it right here, but I would say a Kali is probably the way to go. So you have the best offense actually, but that is really depending on your speed runes. Kali moving first, Bethany moving second, and then having your Tablo moving. And then in the next rotation, it is these two move again, Jemaya moves, and then you have this moving again. But that does mean that you need to have a Kali that's insanely fast. And like all of these three units need to be insanely fast. But you have the Kali on the first time going. Wait, does that actually work with the Kali? It does work with the Kali only if your Tablo is just a bit faster than your Jemaya. However, would you have to speed tune it to a way? Is there a possibility to speed tune it in a way with speed increasing effect where that would work? No, actually, I don't think so. But yeah, something along that line is maybe something that you could make like a good rotation. Or maybe just have your Jemaya move first. I think that's definitely an option as well. Yeah, make your Jemaya move first, then the Kali. Then you have your damage dealer, then you have Tablo, then you have Jemaya moving first, your Kali, your damage dealer, and then Tablo again. So that's definitely a way that you could use that whole team as well. So one of those lines definitely is something that could help out. Another unit that I think is definitely in lower ranks very interesting is this. Because in lower ranks, I definitely do notice that current day and age, more people do have strippers all of the time. But there's still a lot of defenses that someone goes something like this. This is someone's defense. So we don't have any form of strip in here, or let's say it's not even this, but it is this. Wait, no, that one. This is the defense of someone saying like, yeah, I'm super tanky, I'm annoying to kill, blah, blah, whatever. Yeah, nice. We make the Chloe super fast. We make the Galleon really slow. And all of these units, it's somewhat unlikely that you actually do your healing. Let's say if it does your healing, then we do need a strip in there. So any options of strips, let's say that we have this just for fun's sake. And then you can say like, okay, then my Dorothy moves. So that is definitely an option that you could say like, okay, I wouldn't really Leo this, because if you Leo this, they might take a turn and it's maybe a little bit not that chill at the right moment. And you don't have the full protection because they can still do a lot of damage. Like this thing, if it hits super hard, it can kill those units. But with that Invis, you have like your safety net of saying like, okay, you take like 4 turns, you don't strip, I don't care. Then I go in with the damage, and that literally could be any units. Like it doesn't have to be these, it could be bombers, it could be a strip first, it could be even like the Rika Amber, or like first a strip Rika Amber, something like that. You have like a stripper that does something, and then you have Rika Amber, and then something else moving. Maybe not that great into these units because they have a lot of glances, but there's definitely a whole bunch of options out there. And I think I've been talking for long enough. It's like a 50-minute video. I'll probably cut out a few parts here and there. But this is what you have to look at for your arena offense. And the best way to see like what you're lacking at for your next rush is checking your previous rush. So record the whole rush on your phone or whatever, and then check like, okay, what am I skipping? Or just write down, like the moment you're rushing, write down, like what am I skipping? What am I skipping? And then for the next rush, think about it. What would I be able to do different in my offenses to be able to hit that thing? Because I see like constantly, I'm skipping all the Tian lengths. I don't want to hit the Tian lengths. I'm skipping all of the Nixes. I'm skipping all of the Camillas. How can I next week actually hit that? And I can help out with that as well. I have a Discord, and my Discord is down in the description as well. And there is this channel that's called How to Hit This AD. And there's just me replying to it, other people from the community replying to it, saying like, okay, I would hit it this and this and this way. So that's definitely a way that you could maybe interact with other people, share some ideas of like ADs or AOs, and saying like, okay, how do you clear them? Because in the end, every defense is clearable if you have the right offense runed up against it. And even with free-to-play options, sure, it's more niche, sure, it's maybe more difficult to rune, sure, it's maybe not working as best, but every defense is clearable. It's just depending like, okay, how safe is it to clear? How fast is it to clear? And is it worth to actually rune that much specific runes into those units to actually clear it that way as well? So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it for AOs, in my opinion. Sure, there's still a bunch of units that I didn't really mention. For example, if something goes speed buffing, you might as well throw a Magnum at it and then you just one-shot it or something like that. But most of the common defenses in current meta in 2024 are addressed right here, right now. Definitely still a few units that I'm missing here and there, and you probably have some cool options that you say like, oh, I'm actually using this all the time, that all the time. Most common offenses that you're gonna see a lot is still going to be Zyros, Tiana, and then you go for, let's say, a Galleon and a Samath. It clears a lot of the stuff, but would it actually clear this? It's somewhat on the tricky side. So yeah, that's where you could say like, okay, I don't need the Samath, but the Samath is gonna become like another damage dealer. And then another damage dealer might also be like a Poseidon. Like those are like super strong offenses out there, but you have to keep in mind, you would actually need to land your resets to make this thing work. So you could also go for saying like, okay, I add in that failsafe Tiana, enemy, I reset this, and then my whole team goes. Sure, you kind of want to reset both in this case, but let's say that he has this, and then he has Amdwed in there. Tiana moves, your Ganymede is super fast, Ganymede resets this thing is pushed back, your Galleon moves, this thing moves, kill the whole thing, easy. So there's definitely a whole bunch of options out there, which I could say like, okay, there's always a way to clear it and to clear it pretty fast. If you're really free to play, like the thing that I would be recommend looking at most is Jasmine. Jasmine is definitely a very good free-to-play unit that can help you out with a lot of things. Aquila is a very good free-to-play unit that can help you out. If you're looking for damage, Akamamir is definitely an option. Kaki is an option. Wouldn't go this is a full team, but I would go full team of this. And then adding in your speed booster in here, which could be like an Eshir or even be like a Bernard. I don't really like this thing as much, the Draco, because it's kind of RNG of what kind of buffs you're getting and that kind of stuff. And from here, you can kind of start saying like, okay, I have units that are more premium, and with those more premium units, I replace my Kaki for a Zyros, or I replace my Kaki for a Poseidon. So in that way, you start building more and more offenses, and that's kind of the way to do it. Guys, this was a pretty lengthy video. I hope you learned a thing or two. If you didn't, well, then you didn't pay any attention, I think. Or you already knew anything. You're like already high up G3 and, well, hoping to learn something, but I only taught you like stuff you already knew. I don't know, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. See you tomorrow, hopefully in the video about ADs, where I will talk about ADs. What are my recommendations for ADs? I didn't talk too much about like how to rune stuff, but once again, keep in mind, as I did as a reminder before as well, all of your damage dealers, if they have to crit, 100% crit rate. All of your strippers, if they use accuracy to strip, 85 accuracy. And all of your speed boosters, as fast as fucking possible. That's the only thing you actually need to know. Like anything else, like high crit rate, high damage, in tune. That's also the thing. Everything has to be in tune. Don't let speed gaps be there. So you can use the summons who are rune optimized for checking speed gaps. You can use other like Excel sheets that are out there to check like the speed gaps and that kind of stuff. Definitely do check those speed gaps and make sure that you're not getting outsped. For your setup units, just be fast, but also if your setup units actually uses accuracy to land anything, as in the case of Galleon, Truffle, Jasmine, you want to have max accuracy. But you also have some damage dealers that can also be the setup. And the setup could be a Zyros. You could definitely make a Zyros that's 100 crit rate, pretty high on the attack, no crit damage, and then go 85 accuracy because you actually want to land that AoE reset all the time. Or same thing for the Poseidon, you want to land that AoE reset. That makes it a failsafe. Same thing, putting any of the damage dealers, if you're using 2 damage dealers on this pair, becomes a failsafe. Because let's say you're not killing everything, but you're happening to despair stun something. That is definitely the way to actually make things safer as well. And yeah, if you do get outsped, make sure it's a controlled outsped, and then you have like your protection from like a Chloe or anything like that, or your Shimete, also a very good unit. Like if you want to go full free to play, like super free to play units out there that give you a lot of options of just clearing your enemy. And therefore, you're gonna get more LD scrolls in the arena rush. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. I'll definitely be rushing on Sunday. Definitely be having the video tomorrow on the ADs, and see you in the next one.